turned out then to be a very good weekend indeed for Arsenal. Of course, Liverpool and Manchester City dropping points yesterday. And then today in the North London derby, it was men against boys. 4-1 to Arsenal. It could be more. Eze with a hat-trick. Richarlison getting quite the consolation goal, but that'll soon be forgotten. The main headline is, Stevie, that this is now what? Arsenal's title to lose?
I think after today, you have to say that. I mean, impressive doesn't really tell the story. They completely outplayed, outfought, outthought. Whatever out happens in football, they absolutely did it to Spurs. A complete and utter demolition with a little mistake in the middle of it, with a great goal from Richarlison. But boy, men against boys is true, and of course Eze. Wow. If you're Odegaard, I was looking at Odegaard sitting on the side every time he went to the bench. I'm thinking, what's going through his head? You know, I'm pretty sure Eze was brought in to play on the left-hand side, but also he could, if Odegaard needed a break, he can go in the middle. Well, not just today's performance, but particularly today's performance. Wow, Odegaard, does he get back in the side when he's fit? I'm not so sure.
Yeah, because when Eze came in, Stevie, a lot of excitement about him, obviously, but he didn't exactly hit the ground running. Was that more to do with where he was playing?
Well, I think it's a little bit of everything. Where he was playing, it's a new setup. You know, he's playing in an area of the field for a period of time that he never got the opportunity to do with Palace. You know, he was from left to middle, and he walked up and down, and he managed to score some fantastic goals. But you know, there were goals that he had an opportunity maybe a couple of times if he's lucky in a game. Whereas when you're playing with Arsenal, it's a whole different look, and so that's why it took him a little bit of time. But you saw today what he's capable in that central area. And I think what separates him from Odegaard, yes, Odegaard has that little eye for a little ball. Eze has a little bit of that. But I tell you what, Eze has in his locker that Odegaard doesn't have is goals. And to me, that's what the game's about.
What was interesting today, Stevie, and of course you were part of those Liverpool sides that were so successful back in the day, was that half an hour in, it was such a dull game. Nothing had happened. But there's always that feeling with Arsenal now, compared to other seasons, that there's just going to be that little moment of magic, that little bit of inspiration that will see them take the lead and get across the line.
Yeah, you know, the feeling of you're in total control without being cocky and arrogant about it is exactly what Arsenal have right now. And yes, we've just been waxing lyrical about Eze, and of course Saka gets a lot of plaudits, and the back line does, and Gabriel. But you know, Trossard on that left-hand side is one of those unsung hero type guys in a great team that not only does the work, but actually creates. He does get a little fortunate, Trossard, with the first goal, because it does come off a Tottenham leg and goes in the net. But he's also got an assist for Eze. I mean, the guy's just a pain in the backside of any team that he plays against. You know, again, one of those unsung heroes. And as I said, not only Odegaard sitting on the bench, but anybody else sitting on the bench is looking at this side and thinking, am I going to get again? What a position to be in if you're Arteta.
We talked obviously after the Sunderland game, and we're like, oh, a little bit of frailty maybe there from Arsenal. Why didn't Spurs approach the game like Sunderland did 2 weeks ago?
Well, they don't really have the personnel, to be honest. You know, Richarlison played in that role on his own to start with. But after that, they don't have players that want to play that way, can play that way. And even if they were asked to play that way, could they really do it? I don't see it. So yeah, I don't. You know, we said on our ESPN FC show that Arsenal are not going to be subjected to what they got against Sunderland away. Maybe Brentford. After that, everybody either is going to try and play football, but cannot play that physical game the way that those two sides I mentioned can. So, yeah, it was a little blip. But again, they just, for anybody who had that little doubt, you saw today what they're about. This is a big game. You know, derbies are different. regardless of form, derbies are different. But you saw today that this Arsenal side, regardless of what's put in front of them, regardless of what's on the game, regardless of the situation, they just play the way they play. And again, that's what the best teams do. They let the other side worry about them, and they go on that field, and this is what we do. And you're going to have to stop us. Again, to be part of that is a fantastic feeling. When you step on the field and you just feel it in your bones that regardless of what the opposition throws at you, ain't going to be good enough. That's what this Arsenal team's like right now.
Where did Spurs go wrong today, Stevie?
I don't think they got anything wrong. They're not capable. They're not good enough to beat Arsenal. They're organised, but they weren't good enough. The short amount of times they had on the ball, they weren't creative enough in order, to keep it. Never mind create stuff. And they have got possibly 10 players that may have started in this game injured. I never expected much from them. I don't think anybody did, and I don't think you can really look too much to Spurs today. I think you've just got to look at Arsenal and admire and be impressed about how they go about it. And absolutely 100%, they are big, big, big favourites to win the Premier League. And as you started with, is it theirs to lose? Absolutely.
Steve, you got Chelsea next week. Obviously, it could be 9 points.
Yeah. You're always hesitant to say that would be it. You really are.
Because we've got the whole season to talk about.
I know, but you just get a feeling that Arsenal have got too much for anybody and everybody, home or away. I mean, it's almost like watching the Bundesliga with Bayern, because right now we're in a position where you're going, who's going to challenge them? And I think we're getting close to that in the Premier League this season. There are too many other teams who are capable of dropping points, who have dropped points, who will drop points between now and the end of the season. All of these things are not something that we're talking about and saying about Arsenal.
Hey, Stevie, you mentioned Bayern. That's Wednesday. Arsenal against Bayern in the Champions League. Great stuff.
Yeah, great game. Should be a great game. Both sides will be going to win it. Bayern will be trying to win it. So I think we can expect a humdinger.
Thank you very much for that analysis. That's fantastic. For Spurs, what is their aim this season?
They have Europe. They got to try and get and be in Europe. They've shown previously this season that away from home they can pick up points. You got to think that eventually they have to start picking up points at home. And with everybody, I mean, I was going to say the top 10, but probably maybe further down. Teams are capable of beating anybody, quite frankly, apart from Liverpool, that is. So yeah, they by hook or by crook have to look and trying to be in the European spots, but certainly they need to start picking up points soon. But I'm sure they will.
We were clutching at straws, weren't we, in the international week, looking at Arsenal, going, oh, Gabriel's injured. How are they going to cope without one of their talisman at the back? Obviously, there's no problem today. Where could there be a problem for Arsenal going forward?
Can I get back to you on that?
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? That's the really, and you can, as you say, you can point to every other team in the Premier League and point out some frailties. With Arsenal at the moment, that's really difficult.
Well, if you start at the back, the keeper's one of the best in Europe, no question. Back four, don't let any goals in. Middle of the park controls the game. Can play whichever way you want. If you want to fight, they can fight you. If you want to play football, they can outplay you. And even without Gyökeres, you put Moreno up front, and they still score 4 goals. Kind of hard to pick holes in them.
Percentage chance they win the league, Stevie?
Whoa, it's got to be about 80%, isn't it?
They're looking good. If you're an Arsenal fan, you're feeling pretty good right about now. Steve Nicol, thank you very much. Of course, more action to come in the Premier League. Manchester United against Everton tomorrow before a full programme of Champions League matches, including Arsenal against Bayern Munich. Of course, we'll be covering them all on ESPN FC.